Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to Engineering Adda. Today in this video, we are going to discuss about the interceptor. What is interceptor and how we can use it to intercept the HTTP request and the response. How we can use it for the cross-cutting scenarios. So everything we are going to discuss here in this video about the interceptor. So let's get started for that, and let me try to go to the next slide to discuss about the interceptor in depth. So interceptor in Spring Boot are the mechanism that allows you to intercept and manipulate HTTP requests and responses at various stages of their life cycle. Okay, so let's say you are going to develop a API in the Spring Boot, and that API is going to be hit by some of the client. Might be Postman in this case. Okay. So when Postman is going to hit that API, it will try to send a HTTP request to that API, and in response will get the response from that API. Okay, so interceptor is a concept in Spring Boot that allow you to intercept and manipulate that HTTP request and the responses at various stages of their life cycle. Okay. This concept is crucial for implementing cross-cutting concern, such as logging and authentication, request notification, response modification, or error handling. So the main purpose of interceptor is implementing the cross-cutting concerns. Okay, so what do you mean by the cross-cutting concern? So first of all, let me try to tell you that. So cross-cutting concerns are aspect of software application that affects multiple layers or component of the system. They are not confined to any specific part of the application business logic, but instead span across the various part of the application. So cross-cutting concern is something which we can say that it applies to all the areas of the application, but it is not specific to some business logic. Like if you want to do the centralized logging, then you can put that centralized logging for all of the APIs that you develop in your application at the interceptor level. Are you getting my point? So let's say you have 100 APIs in your system, in your application, and you want to have a center where you will try to handle the error for all those APIs, all those 100 APIs. And that error is something which is not related to the business logic. It is a genuine error, generic error that the API can face. So those error handling you can do at the interceptor level. Okay, so that is what cross-cutting concern is. It's aspect of software application that affects multiple layers or the component of the system. They are not confined to any specific part of the application business logic, but instead span across the various part of the application. This concern typically involves functionality that is needed throughout the application, but it is not specific to the core business logic. Like we were discussing about the cross-cutting concern like logging. So if you want to put the loggings for all the APIs at a center stage, you can say that you can put those loggings in the interceptor level. You can put the authentication for all those 100 APIs at the interceptor level at one place. So similarly, you can also put the error handling and request modification, response modification. If you want to add a couple of fields in your request headers, you can put those things at the interceptor level. So that is what interceptor and cross-cutting concern is. Now, these are the example of cross-cutting concern like logging, authentication, request modification, response modification, error handling. Coming to interceptor. So we have two different kind of interceptor implementation in Spring Boot. The first one is client-side interceptor implementation. Okay, so these are used for intercepting and modifying HTTP requests and responses when making outbound calls to third-party APIs. So let's say you have your application ready, and in your application you develop one API, and that API is calling a third party API. In that case, you can implement the client-side interceptor at your application level and manage the third-party API that you are calling. Their request and the responses you can manage in that client-side interceptor. So that is what client-side interceptor is. It is used for intercepting and modifying HTTP requests and responses when making outbound call to third-party API. How we can do that? There is a interface called client HTTP request interceptor that you can use, and it comes with the REST template. So let's say you're using REST template to call the third-party API, then you can use this client HTTP request interceptor interface to create your own client-side interceptor. How we are going to do that, we'll discuss in the separate video. So don't worry on that. So this is one of the interceptor type, which is client-side interceptor. Now coming to the other type of interceptor, which is server-side interceptor. So the server-side interceptor is nothing but you have developed your own application, and that application has a couple of APIs. So how you can manage request and responses of your APIs? That is what server-side implementation is, and that is how we can implement the interceptor at the server side. We are going to see here. So server-side interceptor, these are used for intercepting incoming HTTP request and outgoing HTTP response in your Spring Boot application. They are often used for handling authentication, logging, or custom processing of requests and responses, and also we can use it for the error handling. How we can develop that? Server-side interceptors, you can use this handler interceptor interface for the server-side interceptor. Okay, how we can use it out, we'll see in the separate video where we are going to discuss about the server-side implementation in detail with the practical implementation. So these are the two different type of interceptor we have in the Spring Boot. One is the client side and the second one is the server side. Now coming to the how interceptor help in handling errors. So interceptor are practically useful for handling errors because they allow you to centralize error handling logic. So that is what I was discussing, that let's say you have an application and your application is having 100 or more APIs. So how you can put a centralized logic to handle the errors for all those APIs at one place? That you can do using the interceptor. So you can create your own interceptor and try to put those error handling logic at that interceptor level, so that you don't have to put error handling logic for each APIs. You can put it at the center level and then everything will work. Okay, so instead of scattering error handling code throughout your application, you can encapsulate it within the interceptor. Now coming to the summary, interceptor in Spring Boot allows you to intercept and manipulate HTTP requests and responses both at the client side when making HTTP requests to the third-party APIs and on the server side when processing incoming HTTP request. Okay, by centralizing error handling logic with the interceptor, you can ensure consistent and efficient error handling across your application. This approach enhances maintainability and readability by keeping error handling code separate from the business logic. So this is what the advantage of interceptor. So let me try to again brief you what we discussed here. So first of all, we discussed what is interceptor, what is cross-cutting concern, and then what are the different type of interceptor we have, client-side interceptor, and how we can implement it out, server-side interceptor, and how we can implement it out. And then we see how we can do error handling using interceptor. And then we discuss all the things in summary. So this is about the video. This is the introduction video of interceptor and different type of interceptor we have. In the coming two videos, I'm going to discuss about the client-side interceptor and server-side interceptor in detail through creating two different Spring Boot application and try to implement both of the interceptor in that application. So let's get started for that, and this is about the video. And if you like the video, please hit the like button and please subscribe the channel for more such content. Thanks.